the end, we're going to open it up to questions where we can ask the panelists whatever you might have on your mind. So I would love to first start off and kind of just have each one of the panelists speak maybe for 5 minutes about kind of what's been happening in their industry, where things are currently at, what things are looking like moving forward. And Ms. Rosita, if you would love to kick us off, we'd love to start with you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. And the timing is great. As Chris called me to confirm everything, I was receiving all this breaking news. But I want to start a little bit about FRLA. I'm the regional director for Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association. It is a state association. It's a trade membership association specific for hotels and restaurants. So our members are hotel owners and general managers, restaurant owners and general managers, and all those who serve or work with restaurants and hotels, which could be anywhere from marketing companies to distribution of food and alcohol and those kind of things. So it's kind of an overall hospitality. I represent Broward County only, and it's the best county. I just want you guys to know. And I'm not just saying that because I work this job, but we're known for being one of the most active, one of the most outspoken. We have the strongest hospitality industry in the state in numbers, in participation. So our hotels and restaurants are recognized all over the state. My colleagues all know about Broward County's hospitality because we set such a great example. So with that said, most of the time, my job is to educate, promote, and advocate. So basically we industry and those who work with the industry to make sure that we share restaurant hotel updates and information, who's coming in, who's going out, who's new, who's what. We also are very involved with education, hospitality education to actually bring a new generation of hospitality into the work marketplace. And the third is advocate. We do a lot of lobbying for issues that are important to the hospitality industry. However, since the pandemic, our role has completely changed. My job description went out the door, and now I am 911, 411. It's everything that is coming in the news. It's everything that is changing with the guidelines and making sure safety guidelines are from federal, state, county, local level are distributed and shared and sorted through and help hotels and restaurants do the best they can, providing resources anywhere from legal to marketing to PPE products and services. So our role has shifted just like everybody else's business because that's what they need right now. So with that said, one of the news that just came in, and again, I have to be on top of the news, this past weekend, as you all know, the reinforcement of following the guidelines, mainly wearing the masks and keeping the social distancing in group gatherings came about. And I sent out a big e-blast to everybody. And then some other questions came up from it about buffets, about entertainment. Should entertainers wear masks? And yes, they do, indoor and outdoor. So no singers and no flutes, nothing, no instruments that will have to be in your mouth. And 2 minutes, 2 minutes before I talked to Chris, about 20 minutes ago, we got breaking news that the alcohol consumption through the state is going to be prohibited as of now, as of immediately. So basically the numbers are increasing. DBPR, which is the Department of Health and Professional Health and Regulations, they just announced, which are the people that actually regulate like food safety, health inspectors and those kind of things. They have now asked that all places are prohibited to have consumption on the property or at the bars. Not on the property, at the bars. We're trying to get clarification. This was just the one sentence that came out, but those kind of things really will help hotels, restaurants to follow the guidelines and make sure they don't get fined or get in trouble. But I just want this crowd and any residents out there to please be cautious about that, because these businesses are struggling and they're trying so hard to get back on their feet. And the last thing we want to do is create a situation that is going to put them in a worse financial place or shut them down. There's been shutdowns and different things. And I think before you need to go to other speakers, so that I just wanted to give you a background, and we can talk more details if you have questions or specifics that our industry is doing creatively to try to survive. Is that
great?
Does that work
Yeah,
for now?
perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that introduction. Gina, where are you? There's so many people in here now. I don't know where you're at, but you're in somewhere, I think. Is she still here?
She is. She's
There you go.
Lower right. Hey, Gina. Yes, I can now. So I would love for you just to do the same thing, kind of, a quick introduction, and then kind of everything that you've been seeing in the event space and, your world.
Okay, great. Thank you. My name is Gina Ellis. I am with Riverwalk Fort Lauderdale, a 501c3 charitable not-for-profit in downtown Fort Lauderdale. We oversee about 2.5 square miles of downtown and 10 parks. And COVID is not kind to charities, as we all well know, or to other businesses as well. However, there are things that are ongoing that we still must attend to in terms of the parks and their oversight. In terms of events, what we have found is from March forward, at this point, literally there are no public events. There's no opportunity for them, and the city doesn't support having them in any form or fashion. Currently, I think the first set of event applications for new events or any events are not even going to be on the commission agenda until August. So that itself is a resounding notification that there's really nothing that's going to happen until we get to fall. And even then, we have to have at least reached phase 2 or phase 3 for it to be reasonable. Phase 1 allows 10 people, end of story. No more, no less. And those all must be safe distanced. To consider an event going forward is a true challenge, not just because you need hand washing stations and other safety precautions, but how do you establish an event and encourage people to come that they feel safe? So we find a lot of planning in process. There are many great practices that are in place, a lot of plans that people have come up with. Haven't had the chance to execute them yet, but I think that as we go forward, we will find some of the ways. There are existing events that have gone on for years. There are tons of walks and runs and walks for the animal. What you're seeing is that we're all turning to virtual. Those events have got to find another mechanism. For Riverwalk, part of our role, or the majority of our role, is engagement. Certainly, events are how we fund ourselves, but again, we still must engage the public. I'll give you 2 examples. A burger battle, which is a long-standing park event. This year, we flipped it in the other direction. We turned it around and said, okay, this is our 11th year. It's our turn to pay it back to the restaurants that have supported us the last 10 years. So we put up a virtual challenge and tried to drive traffic to those businesses, which was beneficial for them and beneficial for us as well. Just get ready for July, kids, because it's ice cream month and there will be an ice cream challenge coming your way. So from a virtual point of view, there's at this point, there's 16 different ice cream parlors or restaurants that have jumped on the bandwagon, and it's our job to promote them as best we can and to encourage all of you to go out and work on your COVID-15 and see if you can add a few. So those are the challenges that we're seeing today.
Perfect. I can't wait to eat ice cream all month long now. Now you gave me an excuse too.
And believe me, if you post your picture with your ice cream, you run the opportunity of winning a prize each week. So we do a virtual prize for people that engage and put it back up on their social media, tag the different places that they go to. And it's secondary, but it keeps those restaurants and this time ice cream parlors in the news.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thank you so much for that quick introduction. Mr. Robert Boo, I would love to invite you to the main stage. And if you could just give us a quick introduction and kind of tell us what you've been seeing in the nonprofit world.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Robert Boo. I'm CEO of the Pride Center at Equality Park. I'm also on the board of directors for the chamber, and then I chair the nonprofit council for the chamber. And then additionally, I am co-chair of the board of directors for Centerlink, which is the National Association of LGBT Community Centers. And we have 250 members strong across the country in that organization. So as Gina very clearly stated, nonprofits are at a very huge disadvantage. Especially on our campus. It's a 5.5 acre campus. We have 9 other organizations on our campus, and 60 groups and organizations utilize our meeting room space pre-pandemic on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And then we have the nation's largest weekly gathering of LGBT active agers. They're not seniors because I'm getting too close to that. So it's active agers is the term. Which is a very high risk population, marginalized community. So when we shut down in March, we have not been able to open up to the public.
Hey, girl, I'm sorry. I meant to finish up with you to talk about a boy.
Okay, we'll talk later.
Sorry about that, Robert.
That's okay. We have had to cancel 2 of our events that were to occur in April, our 5K, and then our Black Tie Diversity Honors out at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in their new beautiful guitar hotel, which had to be postponed. And then we also do Wicked Manners, which is the Southeast nation's largest block party in the country that is actually on October 31st. So this year being a Saturday night, we had anticipated 40,000 people to attend that event. So 3 of our big fundraisers, 2 postponed to 2021, and then it looks very doubtful the way things are going that we'll be able to provide that safe space for not even 40,000, but who knows what will be in place at that time. So nonprofits are having to be technology wise. We actually did our first virtual fundraiser last night to celebrate our 27th anniversary. It was an hour-and-a-half long, and oh my God, let me tell you how much work it takes to put on one of those things with the video testimonials and live conversation and bingo games and everything. So nonprofits are really having to look at all different types of and avenues of technology to stay connected with our donors, to be engaged with the community, and to try to also help support those for-profit organizations who have all helped us in the past, and now we need to turn around and help elevate them as they open up in the stages that we're experiencing here in South Florida.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that quick introduction there. Mike Sophia, you ready for your big moment? I know you've been waiting. You're eager to get on there before.
Here we go. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Sophia. I'm the Vice President of Sports Development for the Greater Fort Lauderdale CVB. I started here January 15th. It's been the most bizarre first 6 months of a job I've ever had. So we've got that. I think most of you know that the CVB's role is basically to drive visitors, to drive tourism for the destination, put people in hotel rooms, restaurants, attractions, add to our tax base. But mainly support jobs in the community. So I think tourism and hospitality accounts for about 1 out of every 5 jobs in Broward County. So that's what we do. My role, my part of the building is sports specific. So we're really focused on the sports industry. So February, we had the Super Bowl in South Florida. We're on deck for an NHL All-Star game, college football playoff this year, national senior games. But that's a small part of the story. You know, we do everything from the big pro sporting events that everybody sees, but the bread and butter of what we do is youth sports. Youth sports is a $19.7 billion industry in this country, compared to the NFL, which is $16 billion. So if you take all of the youth sports and every facet of it, it's a pretty significant part of the sports universe. And obviously the sports universe has been hit significantly, like everybody else, through this pandemic. You know, the losses continue to mount up. I think in March alone, 700 amateur and youth sporting events were canceled, and it had an impact of $700 million of losses just in March. So it's been a tough go for sports. We've had no events in the last couple of months. We have started to see at least some optimism before this current spike. We started to see a couple of events around the state take place, a couple of youth sporting events in parts of the state that went seemingly well. There's a lot of pent-up demand for sports, be it pro sports, and I think if the NBA and Major League Baseball and Major League Soccer are able to get off the ground, that'll be encouraging for everybody. But at the youth sports level, we see and hear that while there's some concern and reservations, there's a lot of pent-up demand to get, you know, kids back out on the field and playing sports. So for now, we've been focusing a lot on what's off in the future. And every time we sit and try to plan what's going to happen in the next month or two, we just wind up having to revisit that conversation later, like everybody. So again, there's still plenty of optimism that the sports industry is going to rebound. It's just a matter of you know, what the next few months holds for us. Chris, you're muted, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that quick introduction into everything that's going on in your industry. So I would love to jump to kind of some creative things that you guys might have seen in different industries. Rosita, I know we were speaking before about some things that are, you know, ways restaurants are pivoting. So I would love maybe for you to start, just anything that you're seeing, you know, ways that restaurants are just pivoting in different directions or finding new ways and new opportunities to really keep business going.
Yes, definitely. And I'm glad you brought that up. First of all, Mike, so nice to see you here. Welcome to the job. I have been on the sports commission on my CVB days, so I appreciate what you do. As far as restaurants, restaurants, I think more than hotels, because obviously, as those of you know, since a lot of our business is going to be starting with local and drive market, restaurants are picking up faster than before. But even through the pandemic, when they were starting to close down and going into delivery and pickup, people got very creative real quick. One of our board members, actually, she is, you probably know her, Danielle with Oceans 234. She was so creative in jumping on the bandwagon with pivoting her business. She realized just from personal experience that when she went to the store, things were not available, anything from toilet paper to food. So she started kind of becoming a grocery store. She had the opportunity from her distributors to be able to purchase large amounts of things that was different from what Publix or Winn-Dixie would offer. And she put an online format as far as ordering and started just doing really well on that part of it. And her creative part went beyond that. First, she started with just items that she thought wasn't available. Then she started putting together limited, but kind of menus from the chef. It's like, you can pick up the groceries, but we can package exactly all the items and spices and things you will need for a specific meal. And we're basically putting the recipe in there. We're going to teach you how to cook this fabulous meal. She wasn't worried about losing that customer because she also put in there that once we open, here's a 20% discount for you to come back and let us serve you and see how you did in your recipe compared to what our chef does. So she was very creative. Many of the other restaurants too started with pickup and delivery that didn't have it before. And to this day, they're saying that they were forced to go into that direction, but now they're realizing that this has a lot of profit for them. A couple of them actually made their numbers compared to the year before during the same times, just from pickup and delivery. So their cost was less because they didn't have the dining room open, but they were able to do enough pickup and delivery that made up for it. So there's all kinds of great stories there. And talking to Chris actually today, he told me about a fantastic creative idea. And I know of a couple of companies that do this, but I didn't know of a specific one like this, to where 9 restaurants joined kind of forces in using one kitchen to cut down their operation costs in order for them to be able to do pickup and delivery from one location instead of all of them having every place open. There are actually a couple of them in Broward County, after I talked to you, Chris, that I know that do that. They have kitchens where it's almost like you're leasing the space. You go in, you have all it's a very, very nice equipped, professional kitchen. So restaurants can go in and make their food, but this way they're consolidating and making sure that they don't need to have all of the restaurants and locations open. People have been very creative, but even hotels, and I do want to share some positives because it is important, although some of the news from today may have not sounded great. Other parts of the state opened first. We're still in phase 1 technically, but they actually started phase 1 a lot earlier than us, and then they went into phase 2. And because they had less cases in those areas, they've been able to come back a lot quicker, and the demand is there. And I have to say that even hotels, a lot of the hotels are picked back up real quickly. Restaurants are doing really good in other areas. I actually get guest speakers from other parts of the state just so they can share their experiences with our people so that we can all learn from each other. And it's also a good cross-marketing because we're going to be each other's business. We're going to go to their locations and they're going to come to our location. And especially the flights are not back up and the cruises are not back up, that's going to be our bread and butter for the next few months. So talking to them, it's very positive and it's very hopeful for our restaurants and hotels being able to pick back up. And I want to share actually a little word of wisdom. Let me see. I've written it down. They did a CVB event last week about hotel rates. And I don't know how many hoteliers are on here, but in general with hotels and restaurants. I think the biggest takeaway I had from the conversation that we had with the CVB is demand is far easier to get back than the pricing power. I think it's important for people to know that if you want to offer specials and packages and value added items, that's the best way to go. But cutting prices down a lot, it's going to make it tougher for us to come back as an industry, as a destination. So that's the one good advice that I could give anyone with any business. Try to keep that rate integrity and just provide more value and more added benefits to your package.
Perfect. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Sure.
Robert, I know you kind of touched on it before, but part of what a lot of nonprofits, they raise money through events and other galas and whatnot. What have you seen kind of with these events and fundraising efforts shifting online? And any kind of creative stories or really good success stories that you've heard about or seen?
Well, Immediately after the pandemic started and we shut down, we knew we had to start up our communication and help tell our story to our community. And so we did a lot of Facebook Live. In fact, we do that 4 times a week. And other organizations having to go virtual, it really does come back to the basics in fundraising of being able to tell your story and being able to touch that heart that is in your donors and to keep those donors involved with your organization. And so that really does become the challenge for nonprofits of communicating, but not over communicating. Also being conscious that, you know, with the pandemic and the unemployment rate at 46 million people in the United States, it's not as if we can just automatically call up everyone we used to and say, hey, support us. This is the time now more than ever, because those businesses, those individuals, those retirement plans, 401ks, stock market, you know, are in a fluid motion. So it really does come back to having to keep your donors engaged, telling your story, and making sure that you're touching people in their heart. And then hopefully if they have the ability and they have a couple extra quarters in their pocket that they can rub together, that they can still continue to support an organization.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Yeah, we have seen, I think, I was surprised actually how well some fundraising efforts were doing online when people kind of thought, you know, threw their hands up and said, what are we going to do? And people surpassing goals even. So the power is out there, and just shows how the creativity and, you know, going live and engaging your audience really can pay off in the long run.
Yeah, and if you're able to tap into local celebrities or very well-known individuals in our community to help tie that story, it does help with the increase in giving.
Perfect. And Gina, I know you talked about some creative ideas even with the ice cream before, and I'm still thinking about ice cream, just so you know. But anything else you heard about or can kind of touch on?
So again, following along with Robert, because we all have the same donor pool, basically, in terms of sponsors and partners. And again, going back to the added value, when you're engaging with your board members, with your membership, with your community, you need to be able to give them back some sort of an added value to keep them engaged with you. For us, the oversight of public land, the engagement of the community is our first responsibility. When your parks are closed, it's kind of hard to do some of that, but you know, we're finding different ways to engage. We actually have a major project that we're in the final process of getting ready to construct, and it's a public art project that will be on the Riverwalk and go to the city. So good to have construction during a downtime, I'll say that, because then you're not impacting all your surrounding people. But we're watching closely our partners in the downtown and their behavior to basically not do anything more than just remind them we are still in phase 1. So we've taken a safety approach. Wear your mask, wash your hands, follow the guidelines, please support local. We joined in with the Alliance and a lot of others on the SOB, proud to be an SOB, and I'm sure you all are proud to be SOBs. And I would encourage people here to take on that mantra. For charities right now, we all need to survive and we need to find a way to survive, but it's the time that these charities have to pivot and give back to the community. You have to find a mechanism to you know, tread water and still do something to help at the same time. It's a tough push. We've seen a lot of online auctions. We've seen online scavenger hunts. I mean, truly, it's not restricted by anything other than your imagination at this point. And not everything is going to raise funds. If it covers its own costs these days, we're pretty happy about that, actually.
Perfect. And Mike, Sophia, anything that you've seen kind of in the sporting industry, just new creative things that are coming about as a result of everything?
Well, it's been super interesting. The very nature, the very essence of sports to me is high-fiving strangers after, you know, a Dolphins touchdown or whatever it is. So sports is inherently not ideal for social distancing, whether it's on the court, in the stands, whatever. So, you know, we have seen some cool things. We've seen virtual fishing tournaments, virtual 5Ks, and other road races. You know, we've seen, you know, NASCAR, an entire sport, turn to esports. NBA's done the same, and really focus on esports, which is a growing industry by itself. Certainly one that has become a little more relevant in this time. And now as we start to kind of manage our way through the next part of this, you know, games without fans, you know, you're starting to see a lot of the pro teams do creative things to try to salvage revenues, whether it's, I think, you know, the NFL is talking about bannering, you know, the first 6 rows of every stadium this year. So you'll see sponsor ads, sponsor banners where you used to see people in the TV shots from years before. So there's a lot of new things, but again, for, you know, for sports, for youth sports, for big events, it's a difficult time. It's a difficult pivot to get to something else outside of, you know, your kid's soccer team going to play in a championship tournament. So it's been a challenge. And again, you know, for us and what we do as an organization, we've been able to pivot a little bit into supporting our restaurants. Some of our Fort Lauderdale's, our marketing team's done a fantastic job. For our sports folks, we continue to focus on future, and that the future is bright for sports in Broward County. We haven't really missed a beat in terms of continuing to bring a lot of potential events to the community in the future.
Thank you. So I want to jump into questions, but first I actually wanted to just recognize a couple people that are on the call here. So first off, Chairman Bill Feinberg. I don't know where you're at, but hey, how you doing? Also, Dan Lindblade is joining us on the call as well today. Dan, I don't know if you wanted to jump in and say a couple words.
No, I'll defer to the chair since he outranks me.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Great to be with everyone again. I'm just happy to be a part of the conversation, and just anything I can do to help, please, you know, reach out, use me. I'll make myself available to anyone at any time. Gina, I am working, you know, looking forward to working with you on your project, and I think we all owe each other to help wherever we can, and we need to make sure that we all get through this difficult time and work with each other and support each other like an SOB, just the way the campaign is saying, supporter of Broward. And I am the biggest fan, and really just thank you all for allowing me to chair this organization. And that's it. Welcome, everyone. Have a great weekend, and I'm here for whatever you need.
Yeah, Chris, thanks, Bill. Chris, the only thing I'd share with everybody is, so you're seeing some establishments being shut down for noncompliance, and we actually at the chamber pushed for this compliance enforcement because it was contributing to the community spread of the disease. So, and you're going to see more of that going on. So. We're not actually active in the compliance as far as going out and shutting people down. That's not our role as a private organization. So if you do see anything that you guys don't think is appropriate, whether it's face masks or whatever it might be, you can all help us out by just getting on the phone to 311 and texting that information, and it'll help us all in complying with the rules that are out there. But thanks so much, Chris, for all you're doing and leading this group. You're doing such a great job, and all the speakers who are here today. I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you as well. You know, like you said, we're all in this together. So any way that everyone here can help, it's only going to make our lives that much easier. I also wanted to recognize Brandy Edelson from Congressman Ted Deutsch's office. She's been helping with some updates kind of behind the scenes, keeping us in the loop so that we can provide you guys with as much up-to-date info as possible. So thank you so much for all that, Brandy. I want to open up to questions. So if you do have questions, I don't know if everyone was here in the beginning, but feel free to drop them in the comment box on the side. We had a couple come through when people registered. So first off, it was from Hillary Joseph saying, you know, with so many virtual meetings happening both internally and externally, do you find that others are still willing to do one-on-one virtual appointments, or people are zoomed out? If anyone wants to jump in, any of the panelists here.
Oh,
Yeah, I can tell you that I'm sorry, you want to go first?
Go right ahead. Go ahead.
Because of the nature of my business, I mean, people still want the Zoom calls and the educational platforms, but they do want to have one-on-one when it comes to their specific needs or information or support that they need. So I still get a lot of one-on-ones, not so much one-on-one with Zoom, but smaller groups maybe with Zoom, and then just phone calls, a lot of like phone meetings as well. But before I let everybody else, you brought up nonprofits, both Robert and Virginia, that we are also a nonprofit, and we used to do fundraisers specific for education. And we have shifted. Now we're focusing on restaurants and employees. So we're doing training, we're providing training for all the employees and restaurant owners, hotel owners, or any business really, that is going to help them not only understand the guidelines better, but know how to carry it out with a customer service attitude so that they don't have any conflict with their customers. We have a training division in the state called RCS. RCS does specific training for restaurant and hotels only. That is in person, but then we provide also a Broward County kind of an online version of it so that it could go to a broader group. But we're still getting people that want to support those training sessions from people that are our state and even national sponsors, because they want the industry to survive. So we're lucky that we have people that have a vested interest in this industry, so they're still sponsoring us. That was it.
Great. Gina, I think you had something to add to?
Well, I was going back to the Zoom discussion. Candidly, as everyone has learned to navigate that platform, and it's become a major industry all by itself, thank you, COVID. Zoom, WebEx, Netflix, all are having a banner year for sure. But it has allowed us in some respects to get more people to a meeting because they can do it at their convenience. They're comfortable coming on board. It doesn't relate as well. You can't look someone directly in the eye as easily that way. So we're still having one-on-ones when appropriate, face-to-face meetings actually in our facility. But I would say the largest part of it is still on the Zoom platform, even with government as well as on our side of the board in industry.
Perfect. Robert, anything to add? Mike?
It's challenging because there is the Zoom fatigue. And people by nature are very social. And so, you know, we used to put on a monthly cocktail reception to our higher end donors once a month, and we'd have 150 to 200 people. And now being able to gather in that type of an environment is seeming to get months and months further away from us. So it does become a challenge, and you have to be very creative on how to re-engage and keep them engaged with the letters, the phone calls, the Facebook Lives, the Zoom events, etc.
And Mike, anything to jump in and add with this one?
No, I'm ready to be done with Zoom calls like everybody else, but it's certainly been a great tool, and it's been better than not being in touch with our team and our colleagues and our customers around the country. So yeah, take what you can get.
I think Zoom fatigue is definitely out there. I think people need to realize a phone call still works, but you know, a lot of times it is good to connect face to face, at least through Zoom, or sometimes one-on-one if the environment allows it, I guess I should say. So I got a question from Kevin Gibbs that asked, what are universities doing to reduce their operating costs, such as utilities and telecommunications, which could be an enormous strain? Can anyone jump in on that? I'm not as well versed with the universities right now.
I can only say that from a state organization, there was some cuts, you know, for operation as far as our contracted services and some of the changes in employees, reduction in pay, those kind of things as an organization. But locally, for our local chapter, we're lucky because we're in a good financial place, so we didn't have to do a lot. And I always worked from home anyway, so it didn't really change a lot as far as operating costs. But we're just kind of adjusting to make sure that we keep the state organization strong.
Chris, now you're talking about universities. Was that the question?
Yes, it was based around universities' operating costs.
Okay,
Sorry.
so we did have the chairman of the state university system on a conference yesterday. All of the state universities will be back in session this fall. And it's going to be interesting to see how that works. All the universities had to submit plans to the State University Board of Regents, and that those were all approved. And so the kids are going to be back. I think football is going to be played maybe to stands that are empty. They're still working through that. But you know, they're committed to going back into session this fall.
Perfect. Thanks, Dan.
Well, Chris, let me jump in, Chris, because sure, it's yes. But first, let me thank all the panelists. This is great, Rosetta. Thank you. I sent you a little private chat there. I'll look at it. But I must also thank all the individuals here, especially those in the hospitality sector, because FAU did a certificate course, and it was well demanded. It was well, you know, received. We had thousands of individuals who were not working part-time. They took our course, and we are so happy that we were able to provide this. So thank you guys for, you know, supporting FAU. FAU will be back this fall remotely. A lot of us will be teaching remotely. Most of us will be teaching, you know, remotely. Where the problem may be is in terms of housing, because you know, students may not come back on campus, and if they do not come back on campus, then you know, we may not be able to meet our, you know, overhead cost. But in terms of budget, yes, there will be a shortfall, and like all the other institutions, we have to find ways to try to meet the students' needs in content, for classes, and for everything. And we have to do it in the best way possible, because our major focus is to make sure that we are giving students the best education. Yes, football will be back and everything else will be back. But we are also mindful of the fact that with COVID and the parents sometimes not wanting to send their students or their children from, you know, out of state, there could be a shortfall. But we are doing the best we can. Broward campuses are open, the classes are there. We're gonna have online classes, we're gonna have, you know, remote classes, and we're gonna do the best we can. But thank you guys again for supporting FAU, and especially that, you know, certificate program. We had thousands of applications from Broward, and we did our best to help. Thanks.
Appreciate that. So we had a couple questions in regards to hospitality. First one from Anne, and she's saying she's starting to see lots of tourists in town. Are the hotels ready to keep them safe?
Go ahead. You
I
go.
would, I would say yes. I know our hotel community has been very active in all of the safety measures that go into how to keep their guests safe, from temperature checks on the way in to masks to all of the sanitation processes that you see. So it's been something over the last couple months that I know that we've been actively engaged with our hotel partners with. We've had a small group come in to really walk through all of our procedures with the idea of coming up with a white paper that helps us address safety. All of our partners are engaged in a safety pledge process now. So I have the utmost confidence in our hotel partners doing everything in their power to make the guest experience as safe as possible starting today and however long this continues.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that I agree with Mike. The hotels have been definitely very, very progressive. Obviously the brand hotels and the chain hotels have a lot more resources, and they have their own guidelines, even more strict than us sometimes. The Marriotts and the Hiltons and the Ritz-Carltons, they go through a very, very tight protocol to make sure that their employees are safe, the rooms are safe. They've changed the setting in some of the rooms and the way they service, just so there's less touch points. They've put a lot of technology behind it. They've got signage from the county. So they've been definitely very, very proactive. And even the smaller properties. I work a lot with Superior Small Lodgings, which are smaller properties, and the owners call me and ask everything. Can we do this? Can we do that? Like specific questions. So they're staying on top of it. And I saw in the question, they asked how we communicate these guidelines with them. That's been like the biggest challenge, because first of all, there's a lot of information. So we have to kind of go through and dissect it so that the information they're getting is specific to the spa and the pool and the restaurant and the bar and all of the amenities that a hotel or restaurant has to deal with, everything specific. But also, so we try to go through that and provide it with them by email, by newsletter, by phone calls, by webinars, educational webinars. And then we have to keep changing and make sure that they stay updated. So we try to promote, and I get calls from people that I've never talked to before and say, oh, thank you so much for sending that, especially today. They're like, thank you so much for sending that, because somebody forwarded this to me. And anyone on this call that's not on our list, usually obviously our list is similar to the chamber, it's membership. But at this point, I think the general information is good for the general public. I'm happy to add anyone that wants to be added to our database so that they can receive this and sort through what they think may be appropriate for them.
So we're also seeing a lot of lodgings, a lot of hotels posting their safe and secure badge, which once again, I think is another means of making you feel comfortable that it's a safe and secure place to go.
Perfect. Mike, Robert, anything you want to jump in with about how information really is spreading?
Well, it's very important, whether you're a nonprofit or for-profit, to be able to communicate what measures we've all put into place to ensure that when people do come into our businesses, what precautions, what safety measures, what PPE, we're a little different because we also provide HIV testing and have to have that one-on-one direct contact of service, but we do HIV testing in a non-clinical, non-traditional format. So we don't have phlebotomists or nurses or doctors on site and providing some of those services. So we have to really over communicate what are those precautions that we have put in place.
Great, thanks so much. Rima jumped in just with in regards to the alcohol situation with the new update with everything. Do we have any other information on that, Rosita, whether it's gonna
No, I mean, I
extra
haven't checked my emails the last however long we've been on, but we are trying to get more details. I believe that there's a press release that's coming out, and I will be sending that out.
There's
as soon as
also the
you got it too.
governor's has a conference at 2:00 on Facebook.
Perfect. Yeah, it's, does everybody know it's on the Florida Live channel? So you guys can get the live press conference, but also I will forward information as soon as I get off this call.
Yeah, Chris, my read on it though is that it shouldn't have a significant impact, at least on Broward, because our bars are closed right now anyway.
Exactly.
So even when you go into a restaurant that has a bar, they've been creative. You know, they slide the tables up to the bar and they make it look like they're eating dinner and whatnot. So I guess that's okay. But in Broward, at least, it's not going to have a huge impact for at least right now.
Agreed.
Perfect. And one last question. Want to just be mindful of everyone's time here. Are you guys familiar, other than Zoom, you know, which has been a great way to share information, are you guys familiar with any other tools or apps or any other ways that people are really effectively communicating what they need to do and passing information to their communities, employers, customers, et cetera?
So other than Zoom, I mean, we were seeing a lot of WebEx. We're seeing Team as other, and then of course Skype, which is the longest standing one of all. We're seeing a lot of that, but what we're seeing are consolidated emails coming out through Constant Contact and other vehicles like that, with a concise description with a link to send people, because candidly, you can overdo the email system. YouTube videos, TikTok, all of those, anything that you can reach out and touch someone and engage.
Chris, if I could add something.
Sure.
So this is Michael Elias with a company here in Broward called MediaTek, and we're a technology design, build, and installation company. And a lot of businesses that I'm seeing that are forward thinking and adapting to the new normal, or the better normal, as the audiovisual industry is calling it. There's platforms now where you can actually have virtual events, interactive and immersive experiences. VR is coming into it, so people can feel like they're in a room. For instance, HR is starting to use those interviewing technologies. And also, of course, we need to do presentations, collaborations, distance learning, lecture capture. Those are the types of technologies that are needed right now in order to be able to flourish in the new business environment, especially down here in Florida, in South Florida specifically. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there, that there are many, many great platforms that can be used to help businesses stay virtual and still be profitable.
Perfect. Thank you so much for chiming in there, Michael. I'll pass it back to you, Mike. Close us out.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Rosita, Gina, Mike, and Robert, thank you all for sharing your insights, your information throughout the hour. Dan, thank you for providing insight as well. From our chamber communications, if you did not receive it, we did send out a communication this morning to kind of give a refresher on what the phase 1 reopening guidelines are. We also sent out information having to do with federal assistance, the Paycheck Protection Program. The deadline is next Tuesday, June 30th, for any business that is still contemplating or considering applying for that loan program, and the as well as the emergency disaster loan that is also provided through this Small Business Administration. That is now open. It's been reopened again to basically all small businesses. We did share information in an email. If you have not signed up for our chamber emails, you can always do that on our website. We have a sign up form that you can find under news and media tab on our website, ftlchamber.com. But again, thank you everyone for spending your lunch hour with us, and our chamber will continue to put out communications to help all businesses. Chris, thank you for moderating today's event, and we'll have more chamber chats. As we were talking about, Zoom is a great avenue, and this is definitely going to be one way we can communicate with everyone and provide a forum. So Have a great weekend, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.